Houston, flight is go.
Mila, let's go.
From Assignment X, Amalgamated Storytelling, and thesoniashow.com, it's Dorking Out with Sonia Mansfield and Christopher Allen Smith.
Welcome to episode 74 of Dorking Out, a podcast for people who like to dork out about stories and the stories and culture that we love. That means movies and TV, books and podcasts, and everywhere else we find stories that interest us. This is the Coco and Underappreciated Animated Movies edition. With me today is my professional writer, co-host, and author of The Sonia Show, a trenchant blog on Hispanic culture, Sonia Mansfield.
Hey there.
Hey, I'm not lying.
With me today is my co-host, Emmy Award Winning filmmaker and professional liar, Christopher Allen Smith.
That's right, I just went pro.
In this week's episode, Juan Uriarte from the INSTANT RAMEN Podcast and my husband, David Tracy, joins us to talk about Pixar's Coco, which just opened in theaters this weekend. Is it another Toy Story or is it another good dinosaur? Good dinosaur. Good dinosaur.
That is, yeah. But
Good.
You have Sonia say one Hispanic surname and the rest of the intro goes
Juan's
off the rails.
Right. I got Juan's name right, but I can't pronounce dinosaur.
That's right. You got it mostly right.
My work here is done. Way to really screw up that joke, Sonia. In our second segment, we share some of our underappreciated animated features. And finally, we end our show with what we're dorking out about this week, including Spider-Man Homecoming, which I finally saw, Amazon's Echo, and whatever the heck Smith wants to talk about. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get this podcast started.
It's time to rejoice, for a new Pixar movie arrives this holiday season, and it's named Coco. Voiced by Anthony Gonzalez, Gael García Bernal, Benjamin Bratt, and Alanna Ubach. That sounds kind of German for a Hispanic name. But anyway, Coco tells the story of Miguel, a young boy in Mexico who dreams of playing music. What follows is a fairly routine tale of disillusionment at the hands of a corrupt and venal music industry. The end. No. Actually, Coco tells the story. If you've seen the movie, that's actually a really funny joke. Actually, Coco tells the story of Miguel's journey to the land of the dead and an exploration of the relationship we have with family who've passed on, and where tradition can be both a curse and a blessing. Joining us today is Emmy Award Winning editor and host of the Instant Ramen Podcast, Juan Uriarte, and David Tracy, an animation dork who works at the Oscar-winning special effects firm, The Chaos Group. Also, he happens to be married to my co-host. No, I think you misspelled this when you fixed it, Sonia. I says he has to be married to my co-host.
Oh, sorry. I just assumed you meant something else. But what you mean is...
What I meant was something kind of mean.
He's totally, I'm like an anchor around his neck.
Right. And he's obligated, yes.
An albatross.
Yeah, if you will, yes.
Thank you.
Albatross.
They host a podcast called Old Movies, New Beer. I could say more about it, but this introduction has gone on long enough. Juan,
True.
What did you think of Coco?
Well, first of all, I just want to let everybody know that you messed up my name. We had to do that twice. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've spent plenty of time with you. I'm embarrassed for you. I'm embarrassed for Sonia, you know.
I'm embarrassed for you, Smith. I can't believe you got his name wrong.
I'm your friend.
What did you say, Sonia? Sonia, hold on. Sonia, say his name right now.
Juan.
Yeah, that's
last name.
Juan.
Last name.
And the thing is,
but you called him David.
All right.
Yeah. Juan.
All right.
Yeah, Smith. Mike has been on the podcast many times.
Actually, Mike has been on the podcast
not call
many
him
times.
by his real name.
So,
I don't appreciate the way I'm being treated right now. I'm just gonna leave. I'm
No!
gonna storm out again.
we need to have you when we talk about Hispanic culture. Come on, buddy.
Oh man, is that why you call me? Is that why you send for me every time this Hispanic thing comes up? You're just like, I know one Mexican. Let's call him up.
No, it's not every time it's come up. This is the first time it's come up.
Mexican friends.
Chris, do you know another Mexican guy besides me?
Like
honestly,
probably. This is taking a horrible turn.
Anyways, okay, yeah.
I don't know. Here's the thing, Juan.
Coco, yeah.
I'm not going to use the defense of I know plenty of Mexican people. I'm going to use the defense of I have no friends anywhere anyway. That's
Very
why
true.
I don't know them, because I don't have any friends. I barely have any white friends.
That's a trump card. You can always use that. You're just a sad sack. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
In today's day and age, the term trump card, frankly, I'm not a big fan of that. But anyway.
I'm sorry. Anyways, well, you offended me first. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about Coco, yeah?
Yes, hit it.
Yeah, cool. So we all saw it, right? Right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, and we all loved it, right? Right?
Sonia?
Yes.
I think you need to answer, because
cool.
I've been peppering you with questions. Sonia, you answer first.
Okay. Well, I think Smith already knows what I'm going to say first.
I don't know.
What is my number one complaint about all movies?
They don't make you cry?
This movie's too long.
Oh my God,
long.
really?
Oh, no, hold on, time out. This movie's not too long. What was too long was the stupid Frozen thing in the movie.
Well, so the movie itself, though, is an hour 49 minutes long. That's a little long for an animated movie where you're taking like a 6-year-old. But on top of that, that short is like 21 minutes long. So I was like, it feels a little long.
That was the worst thing ever. Like Frozen was fine. It was a fine thing, a few years back. Everybody talked about it. Everybody sang the stupid thing. Olaf became a thing. And then when they did the little clip in the beginning and it was this Olaf's adventure, I was like, hey, it'll be 5 minutes tops. It was 20 minutes long?
Yeah,
21 minutes.
I wanted to kill myself. It was like the worst thing ever. It was so painful. They shoehorned in a few new songs. And then when I got home, I was watching TV and there's a commercial that pops up like, now the new, whatever Elsa doll with the new song that's from this blah, blah, blah. Like they already were selling products for it. I was so pissed.
I did like Coco a lot. I do think the story is actually kind of like standard Pixar fare, It's like Miguel has dreams to be something different than everyone else in his life, just like Flick and A Bug's Life and Remy and Ratatouille and, the girl in Brave whose name I can't remember. I mean, you get the idea. But the movie doesn't look like any other Pixar movie to me. Like it is beautiful.
No, I totally agree. No, yeah, it definitely is par for the course when it comes to story. It's pretty like cookie cutter. You know what's going on. But it's one of the most gorgeous things I've seen in a long time. Like the prettiest thing I saw before this was probably Kubo and the Two Strings, the stop motion movie.
Yeah. One of my most favorite like animated movies recently. And this movie the story reminds me of Kubo and the Two Strings a lot.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. And I bet you anything Chris still hasn't seen Kubo and the Two Strings.
Oh my God. Wow. This is really not my segment.
Have you seen it?
Point is, I thought Coco was fantastic out of the gate.
Seen it?
I thought Coco was great. I didn't think it was too long. I thought it was great from start to finish. I don't know what Sonia's talking about. This is a great movie. I loved it. It was gorgeous. It's all about execution when it comes to these relatively rote stories. The execution on this was mwah! No, this was fantastic. Plus,
yeah, no, this was a good movie. But you do got to admit the Frozen part was so unnecessary. It was probably the prettiest thing I've seen forever ago, But one thing I do want to talk about is, you guys aren't Latinos, right? You guys don't know what it's like to be Mexican, right? That's not a thing you guys have, right?
Not really.
David, do you know what it's like?
I mean, I've made some runs to the border before.
Okay, there it is.
Here we go.
All right, cool. Okay, so
this is what it's like on the last episode of Dorking Out.
As soon as I left the theaters, all my friends I were with, because they were like all white people, like looked at me and they're just like, "Hey Juan, is that what Mexico's like?" I was like, "Yeah, man. Everybody has a family
it's totally
store.
Like that.
Everybody owns a business. Everybody's super successful. Everybody's super." I'm like, "No, dude. People are poor. People are impoverished. Nothing's that beautiful. You can't use Pixar. Pixar makes everything look pretty." I'm going to Mexico in December, and I'm gonna like walk down the street like, you know what? It doesn't look like Coco, and it's really gonna bum me out.
That was kind of one question I had was what is going to be actually the reaction, like if we were to walk through the mission right now, the people that saw Coco, would they like it? Would they love it?
Okay, so
obviously it's like a very romanticized version.
Yeah, no, it's a really pretty version of what Mexico could be. Yeah, no, in my theater, it was packed. I don't know how it was for you guys, but when I went, it was packed, and there was full of Latinos. Yep. And I knew they were Latinos because while I was sitting there, they were all just chattering in Spanish. And sometimes, like during the theaters, a few of them were like asking like their younger, relatives, like, "Hey, what'd they say in Spanish?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I know what it's like. So, and at the end of the movie, this is the thing I don't really endorse. Clapping at the end of the movie is something I'm not a big fan of, because it's not like it's a live performance. It's something that's been pre-recorded. It's been we're just watching it. But for some reason,
wait, are you saying these movies aren't live?
No, they're not. No, they don't draw them behind the scenes, Sonia. What? Gosh. Jesus. Point is, for some reason, I don't know what it is. Every time I go to a movie theater and there's a bunch of Latinos there, and it's a Latino kind of based movie, like McFarlane USA. There was one about Cantinflas that came out a few years ago. There's one, was it Instructions Not Included? We're geared towards the Mexican culture or whatever. Mexicans show up, end of the movies, they all stand up and clap. It's the weirdest thing. Yeah, no, everybody clapped. And I knew it was going to be all the Latinos. And, all the people I was with, we just sat there and enjoyed it. But everybody else around us were clapping. And they liked it. I mean, it was, I can't, you know what? I shouldn't say that I can't say all the Latinos in the world like this movie. But for the most part, I feel like. No,
you can speak for all Latinos.
I will speak, I'll speak for all of them. All the Latinos in Mexico, all the not even just the Mexicans, all the Latinos, all Hispanic people love this movie. But
I would think Pixar would do their homework on this, and they're definitely ones to go out and
do the research.
Yeah,
do that. Yeah.
Yeah. David, what did you think of the movie?
Yeah,
I thought it was gorgeous. I thought it was really, really beautiful. I hate so much not only in the trailers, but even before you see the movie, they do this. What would be an amazing reveal when he first sees kind of like the undead land
of the dead.
Land of the dead, and they completely ruin it because they show it right before the credits even start. In our theater.
Didn't they pause and say how many lights were in it? There's hey, after the super long stupid Frozen thing, they come up and hey, we're the directors, and this took a bunch of work. We know it took a lot of work. Let's watch it. I'm sick of sitting here.
We see this behind the scenes thing in every Pixar movie about how difficult it is to make a Pixar movie. We understand. I'm sorry, David, I interrupted you.
They totally ruined.
They ruined that what would have been a really good, breathtaking moment in the film.
I mean, it was still really pretty, but no, I agree that was stolen from us. And you know what? We should ban Pixar from our lives. We no longer support Pixar at the. What's the podcast? Dorking Out no longer supports Pixar. I'm calling it, guys. We're done with it.
Wait,
no.
What happened?
Just gonna walk around and give you a Lassiter hug, and then you'll be back.
Oh God!
Did I read the tone wrong? You guys? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Here's one thing though. You know how I think we talked about this, and when we were talking about the Cars movie the last time, was it Cars 3 or something like that?
I think it probably was.
We talked about how sometimes I get I think too much about these movies, and questions pop up. How do the cars have babies? Did the cars get married? All that stuff.
Right.
So one question that popped up with Coco, and it really kind of bummed me out as soon as I left the theater. The concept essentially of the date, of Dia de los Muertos is you remember your ancestors or your uncles and stuff or whatever, and they can come and visit you. But there's also this thing where even if you're not on altar and you can't come over or whatever, you can fade when the last person that has any memories of you dies, right?
Yes.
Right.
So does that also mean murderers and serial killers are also in the land of the dead, and they're just chilling, waiting for all their victims to die or forget about them? You know what I'm saying? We didn't see that part of Coco.
Well, I was thinking about they kept showing all these little kid skeletons, and that was bumming me.
Oh yeah, that was super sad too, right? The mom's is don't look, don't stare. It's rude. And it's oh man, it's a little kid. That little kid's dead.
So sad.
Yeah, what Pixar handled it very tastefully. I feel like the concept of death, they nailed it.
Yeah. Well,
how many times did you cry?
I didn't cry. I was holding back my tears at one point. And then it was, I don't want to reveal what happens.
Yeah.
But someone passes away, and I was just oh man, they got me.
Yeah.
I went home, I turned off the lights, I locked the door, and I cried in the dark. The way Mexican men do their crying in the dark by themselves.
David, how many times did you cry?
I cried I was a blubbering idiot throughout the whole thing, just because I still I couldn't get over the fact that Olaf is the tradition
Shut up. Oh my God.
He's it. He's the tradition.
Oh,
You know,
that's so sweet.
a year from now, when Coco comes out on DVD and people are watching it and listening back to this episode, 3/4 of this section is just going to be us bitching about what happened in the movie theater.
It's well, that's what happened in the movie theater. They did horrible things to us. People clapped. They played a really version of the new Frozen that's going to come out God knows when. Man, that was a bad time. Good movie though. I mean, right?
I might be a little cynical because I'm at a point now in my life where I can kind of see things coming, and when there's a twist that I don't see coming, I'm like doubly impressed, and I so like it. And that happened once in this movie, but then there were a few times in the movie where like, oh, I could see this coming a million miles away.
I would like to hear. I mean, when we're done talking, I want to hear what that twist was, because I feel like none of the twists got me. I caught all of them like pretty quickly, and I was like, this is gonna happen. And this is going to happen. None of them really got me. And they tried to do it several times. But again, the crowd of people I was with, a lot of them gasped. It was like, oh, no, de veras? It's like, yeah, dog, calm down. This happened a few minutes ago. It was, it was foreshadowing. Let me explain it to you after the theaters. But they were freaking out.
No kidding. Well, I got to say, there was one or two twists, one big twist in here that I was surprised they went that far in what is purportedly a kid's movie.
I bet you and I have the same issue, and I actually wanted to talk about that.
Well, actually, all right, let's go into spoilers right now. Actually, let me step back. For those of us who haven't watched the movie yet, or those of our listeners who haven't watched the movie yet, let's do this, and then let's move into spoilers. Juan, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this movie?
Oh man, is 1 really good?
No.
I'm just kidding. You know what? I think it's a solid 9. Like it's not the best movie I've ever seen in the world. So I can't give it a 10. But I really had a good time with it. It was gorgeous. And it plays. It's tugging at my heartstrings. I'm a Latino. The guy's Mexican. So they did everything right to make me happy. Maybe I'll deduct a point. Actually, you know what? They get an 8 because they played that stupid Frozen thing at the very beginning. You know what? No, that they get a 6. They ruined my night.
All right.
No.
Sonia.
I'm kidding.
It's wrong to penalize the movie for
I'm kidding.
stuff that Disney makes them do.
Coco definitely deserves a 9. It's probably one of the best Pixar movies I've seen in a very long time.
Agreed.
Yeah. So yeah. But hey, later on, if you guys want a real movie to cry to, I'll tell you that. Oh my gosh.
Okay, Sonia, what would you give this out of 10?
I'm gonna say a 7.
Okay. David?
I'm gonna give it an 8.
All right.
Nice. David's not racist.
Because I would put Inside Out at 9.
Yeah.
I would put Inside Out at 9. I would put I think this is not far behind Inside Out in terms of ones that I like.
Yeah, I give this an 8, definitely. What were you gonna say?
I think I have like this resentment for Inside Out, where it's a good movie and I like it, but it stole the Oscar from Cuba and the Two Strings, so I just can't endorse it. So no, ain't having it.
Makes sense. All right.
Zootopia.
Oh, was it Zootopia? All right, never mind.
With all of that
in the trash, it's garbage.
With all of that said, let's now move into spoilers. All right, Sonia, what was the issue, the plot twist that you said that you had an issue with?
I don't like that the story hinges on a murder.
Oh, nice. I thought that was great. I love the fact that he's just like, he looks at him, he's like, you're a murderer. I was just like, oh, look at Pixar taking some bold moves.
I don't like that. I don't like it. I think that they could have written that differently and it still would have worked. And I feel like more people would have related to it if, say, he was like, hey, I'm heading back home. I'm out of here. And he dies in an accident or something. And then the guy just takes all of his songs and like steals them all and does this thing. Okay. Like, I think more people could relate to someone who died in an accident than a murder. Okay, so I actually think it's like an opportunity missed, but also like, I don't want like my 6-year-old to be like, why is he killing people?
Sonia, you know what? I mean, the only thing I had to say is like, people get murdered, okay? That happens. And it happens a lot in Mexico, okay? So like, that was very, very true to I'm sorry, that was me.
I'm not saying the murders don't happen. I'm just saying that in theory, this movie is for children, and maybe you leave the murderer out.
Okay, but
I disagree.
I mean, there's been plenty of movies like growing up where people kill other people. They just, I think this is one of the first movies I've seen where they blatantly, he says, you're a murderer.
Right.
But people die in animated films all the time and get killed in animated films all the time. So I didn't really have a problem with that. But yeah, no, I do agree that him literally looking at him and calling him a murderer was kind of like, whoa, wow, that's a shock to the system.
Just like him, like poisoning him and him like collapsing on the ground. And it's just, I just felt like it didn't need that. That's all.
I hate to say this, but I strongly disagree.
You don't hate to say that. You love
actually,
it.
That's true. I love to say this. I strongly disagree.
Are you on my side, Chris?
Oh, I'm definitely on your side.
Yeah.
That should make you feel terrible, Juan.
Kids' stories are replete with murders and poisonings, and you go into any fairy tale anyway, it's all murder and mayhem and horribleness. I like the fact, and here's where I would step back, is I don't see Pixar really as kids' movies. They're family movies. They're movies that kids can watch kind of with their family all together. That's one of the things that I think is so special and magical about them is adults can watch them and enjoy them. Kids can watch them and enjoy them. They can watch them together. And that's why, I think you can play in these areas and examine subjects that are a little harder or a little meaner or a little darker. I think
I agree with you, but I just feel like in this case, it just didn't need it. That's all.
Well, I think Pixar movies are made for 30 to 40-year-old married men.
No, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to hear Sonia's Boo's opinion on whether he's okay with murder or not, because people get murdered, just a fact of life. And we just happen to see it in a Pixar film,
right.
Which, yeah, I think that's a first. I think in Pixar, I can't think any other Pixar characters who've been murdered or been murderers.
Incredibles.
Yeah,
exactly. That's right.
All those superheroes are getting knocked off.
That's murder.
Exactly.
Sonia, don't you like The Incredibles?
Murder.
I do, and I like Coco as well.
Is it because
I'm not racist, Juan. I like Coco.
No, Sonia, I know you're not racist. Chris is. We already talked about this.
How many times are we going to talk about us being racist in this segment?
I think the idea is, the fact that you said murder and called him a murderer out loud, I think that's what maybe got you hung up. Because people get killed all the time in animated flicks. People kill each other all the time. A good example is Pixar. He killed all the superheroes. And it's not like they never called him a murderer, but he was just like, oh, I can't believe you're a monster. You're the worst. Yeah, what he did was murder all those people. Can we talk about what twist got you guys? Because I've honestly, none of the twists really got me.
The twist that got me is the fact that the person that he revered so much, that he loved so much, that he thought was his father, actually turns out to be a straight murderer. That is a twist. He was actually shady. A murderer. Yeah, he was shady. But
he was shady. And then when he did that thing where he stopped for a second before he did the I give you my blessing, and it was a really hard cut and a pause. I was like, in my head, I was like, instantly not going to be his family. He's got something to do with it. Blah blah blah. He killed him. All that stuff.
At that point, yeah. But I thought
David,
that was
what was surprise to you.
I didn't see it coming that he was a murderer either. I also didn't see it coming that his little friend was his father.
Hector.
Really?
Hector.
Right.
I didn't see it. I didn't see him as being his. And I mean, when the murder, as it started to reveal itself with that the guy is terrible, that we knew he was terrible, then you could kind of see it coming around the corner a little bit. But up until that point, I didn't think that.
You just thought he was wacky sidekick.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought he was wacky sidekick guy.
Maybe I just think the worst of animated Latino characters. I was like, nah, that guy's a killer. That guy's a bad dude. That guy's up to no good. His teeth are too shiny. That guy's a bad guy.
It did make the music industry thread through this much more legitimate and believable.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's
without a doubt.
It's a den of vipers in there.
Hey, what did you guys think about the music, actually? What were your opinions on it? Because, I mean, some of them were in Spanish, some of the songs were. So what do you guys think?
I loved them. For me, that's where it really rose from like a 7 to an 8 or a 9, where a lot of times, when there's stories about creators, in either they're an author and they read some of their stuff and it's awful, or they're a musician and they play some of their stuff and it's supposed to be good, but it's awful. It's always so cringe inducing. This was like legitimately, I could see these movies, or I could see this music being hits of its time and all that kind of stuff. I really like it. And
Remember Me is a really, really pretty song.
Oh yeah.
When he sang it to Coco, That was so much better than what De La Cruz did it, whatever. Or whenever he sang it, I hated it.
That's when I start. That's pretty much when I started bawling, and I didn't stop till the movie was over.
Oh, that was so sad. Yeah, that was such a good part. Okay, for the movie, I mean, for the music for me, like, like obviously I understand what they're saying. They're speaking Spanish. I'm glad they didn't go and like just put in like popular music of the time, because I feel like they could have just gone like, oh, this is a popular artist, let's just have them do the a little bit of voice acting and have them like insert a song here,
right.
Like all these voice actors, for the most part, most of them Latino, which is like, hats off to them, because like they actually got people who are Spanish speakers to do the role. And then surprisingly, I feel like the main character, Miguel Rivera, that whoever his voice actor, I think had a really good voice. Like he had a really good singing voice, and I really enjoyed the songs. And I think my favorite song was like when he was like on the stage doing the Poco Loco, the Poquito Loco or whatever.
Right.
That was like super fun, and I feel like I could get down to that like anytime. Remember Me does want to make me cry though. Now that I think about it.
Definitely. Anthony Gonzalez is the name of the kid voice actor.
Is he an actual kid? Because I've never heard of him.
Yeah, I think he is. Let me do some research while you guys could. David, was there something else that you wanted to say?
Just like the one thing that I take away from this film that I appreciate that they did is they really is the color. I think what people are going to remember about this movie is how colorful it is. It is just visually striking. The way the spirit animals are done. I love the dog.
Yeah, Dante.
His spirit animal version is fantastic. That's like right out of a Warner Brothers cartoon or something.
I loved when he was still just a dumb dog in the world's like longest tongue,
Yeah, he's like the ugly dog contest winner.
That nasty dog. I could like, even though he wasn't like proportionate or like really like the way he should look. I've seen a nasty looking dog like that before.
Oh yeah.
And it instantly made me like feel like, oh, maybe I should like take home strays. And I was like, you know what? No, it's not a good idea. Pixar is putting ideas in my head that I shouldn't, come through. But no, I agree. Yeah, the colors was great, and then that just, I mean, they obviously are right. They did a good job of doing the research, because Day of the Dead, it's a I guess from someone who wouldn't know what it is, would just kind of assume it's like a really somber kind of sad thing, but it's not. It's a really festive thing. A lot of colors, a lot of food, a lot of like really pretty designs. Like the sugar skulls. Like I really like the fact that all the dead people, they all had their individual like markings on their face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they had like the mole on the altar, and I wanted to get into that.
Didn't that look delicious?
It did. I saw the mole.
When they're on the when they're being interrogated by that guy, or the guy in the office trying to help him out, and then Dante comes in and starts licking the pan dulce. There's just like one little piece of bread that's like pink, has pink frosting on the top. Mm-hmm. Oh man, that threw me back. I just pointed at it. I was like, man, that's the stuff. That's just like they did a really good job. I remember actually learning about Coco, it coming out while I was taking a class. It was called Chicano Study, which was it was like a general ed class to get into Chico State, where we learned about being like Mexican Americans. And the topic of Coco came up because it was like, is it appropriating a culture, blah blah blah. And honestly, by then we had no idea. At this time when I was taking the class, there was no information on what Coco was. What Coco was. There was no images. All we had was the name and the fact that it was about the Day of the Dead, and the fact that they got this guy who does this. He's like a comic strip. They're like online, and I think his name is El Piolín or El Piojo or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but he's really topical about like the struggles of Latinos and issues with race and stuff. And so Pixar actually got him on board to be like a liaison, sort of like to ask him questions and be like, hey, is this sensitive? Is this appropriate? And a lot of people were upset with that. Like my teacher was super mad about it because he was like, oh, he's selling out. In my opinion, he's like, no, man, he did a good job. He was helping them out, and like nothing on the screen ever at one point offended me. Like was I never like, oh my gosh, they pushed the buttons or pushed the limits too far? Like even when the grandma was grabbing like the sandal and just beating the shit people and he threw them, I was like, yeah, my grandma does that. That's great.
What? Wait, so your teacher was offended about this? Because that is a question that I have about appropriation, or appropriation is something that's discussed, but I think a lot of times the upshot is they're Caucasian people in these points of power, and when they're accused of anything like appropriation, the impulse is to say, all right, fine, we're not doing it, cut bait. And it is, accusations of appropriation seem to have this weird effect of actually whitewashing culture, because people don't want the headache. They just say, all right, fine, we're going to go back to what we know. And I mean, that is one thing. When I was watching this, I was worried if this movie was going to kind of catch some heat like that. But I mean, anybody that's seen, I don't know how this comment's going to come off, but I'll just spit it out there because it seems pretty clear. Anybody that's seen Finding Dory or Finding Nemo knows Pixar researches stuff from stem to stern, top to bottom, and when they commit something to the screen after all the work they've done, they know what they're talking about. They've gone as far as they can to make it authentic. And
I wouldn't use Finding Dory as an example of that, but
Finding Nemo, they all go to like Hawaii and swim around and look at fish and stuff like that. Now, right. I am not in any way connecting the lustrous culture of Mexico with
a fish,
but my point is,
way to go, way to show your colors, Chris.
Vibrant colors, like a clownfish.
I think.
Anyway,
even if it is romanticized a little bit and everything like that, I feel like US 2017 could do with the mainstream.
Well, yes,
hitting the head on this culture and to battle some of the stereotypes and to give a spin on it that
right. But yeah,
you know what I mean.
I definitely agree.
Chris.
And that's what I'm sorry. What was that?
I know you don't think that.
No, stop. No, I 100% agree with you, and that's the thing is cartoons, animated movies. Juan, tell me what you think of this. It's all about romanticizing and boiling down to archetypes of a certain thing. Every movie of every culture, if it's animated, goes through this process where the colors are heightened, the shapes are simplified, the stories are exaggerated, and that's one of the things that makes animation so magical. I think
Aladdin is dead on accurate.
Yeah, I agree too. Yeah, you're right. No, look, Chris, I think what we're talking about is like, Mexico isn't like this. Like, you're not going to find every city in Mexico like what we saw in Coco or whatever. Right. But they did a great job of not offending personally me or people around us. And yeah, I mean, the reason my instructor was super like upset about it was because of the fact that he was like, obviously he's teaching Chicano studies. He was also working on his like doctorates or something, or his a thesis on like specifically on something about appropriation. So he was kind of like really like heavy into it. And honestly, the people in the rest of the class were like, we're just kind of there to do the thing, give our homework a pass. So he was really pissed about it, and we couldn't be pissed about it because there was no information about the movie at all. Like at this point in time, all we had was the name Coco and the fact it was gonna be about the Day of the Dead, and the fact that they got this one guy to like agree to work with Pixar. And I hats off for Pixar for actually doing the work. They've made several trips to Mexico. I was listening to some reviews. They went several trips to Mexico to learn about the culture and stuff. And so they came back, and yeah, they have to make it look pretty and they have to sell it, because if you draw an ugly, just an ugly thing and put it out there, you're not going to get people going there. Like, who's going to go see Coco if it's just really bleak and sad and like
right.
just dark? That's not what they're doing. They're like, come on, let's show the best of what we got and let's pretty it up and just throw it out there. Do I think people should just watch? Like, do I think, Chris, you specifically should go out there and be like, oh, Mexico's great, they're fine? No, that's not what we should do, because it's not like that.
Wait, what? What did I say? What am I saying?
I'm just saying, for average Joe white guy, if he was to watch this movie and be like, oh, Mexico's great, we should just like, it's not like that. I mean, that'd be ignorant to like try to learn something from this kid's movie. But
how ignorant do you think I am? But all right, keep going.
Come on, dog. Don't do this. I don't want to fight with you again. But yeah, no, my girlfriend watched it with me, and she's half Mexican, like, and the other half is white or whatever. We're sitting there, and the first image of like the grandma Coco pops up. She's like sitting in her rocker, and she just like points at it. She's like, oh my gosh, it looks just like my grandma, who is fully Mexican. She's not as dark as Grandma Coco. She's lighter. But I saw her and I was like, you know what? Yeah, even though I always consider my girlfriend to be like American and white or whatever, I'll be like, you know what? It is a part of her culture. So I can feel like that, like even with her, who isn't like 100% Mexican like I am, was able to connect with this movie. So I feel like they did an amazing job. And if there's appropriation or whatever, I haven't heard anybody, talk about it, but I'm sure somewhere on the internet, someone's going to come up and start complaining about it. But for the most part, I think they did a great job.
That's what they do on the internet.
That's what the internet does. But you know what? I don't think there's any like reason to be offended. They did a lot of things. Like I know you guys didn't notice this, but there's a scene where De La Cruz or whatever is like showing off Miguel to all of us, like, hey, this is my, whatever, this is my great grandson. And there's this one specific shot where there's like, it's really quick, and they show all these, dead people, and they're all famous people in Mexican, pop culture, history and stuff. And I was able to pick out 3 or 4 of them really quickly. I mean, Frida Kahlo showed up, obviously. And then I don't know if you guys know who El Santo is or whatever. He was the luchador in the silver mask. But remember that bit where he's like,
yeah, I do remember it. Yeah.
So like, they add these little things, these little nods to us specifically, people who are more connected to the culture, and so I can appreciate it more. And it's kind of like a treat for us. So I really liked it.
So all right, does anybody else have anything to say about Coco before we move on to talk about underappreciated animated movies?
No.
Nope.
No.
Well, that is a underwhelming way to end a segment, so we better get going on to segment 2.
Hey, want more dorking out?
Yep.
You can visit our website at dorkingoutshow.com.
You can.
And you can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter.
On Twitter.
Do you listen to us on iTunes?
Yep.
It's cool.
It's cool.
We won't tell anyone.
Nope.
Please, take a few minutes out of your busy day of pretending to work while you watch cat videos to give us a review on iTunes.
Cat videos!
For some reason, iTunes really cares about reviews, and it helps us attract more listeners, and you want us to have more listeners and be popular and cool, don't you?
Yep.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
And now, on with the show.
Yeah.
Topic 2. Every once in a while, you see a movie and you think, this is great. Everyone is going to love it. And then it comes out and everyone shrugs their collective shoulders and says, meh, or they ignore it completely. We thought it would be fun to talk about some animated features that we think could use a little love. So let's not start with Smith. Let's start with Juan. Juan, what is your pick?
Can we not start with Juan? Can we just go?
Okay, let's start with David. David, what's your pick for an animated, underappreciated movie?
I had 2.
You have 2. That's
2.
okay.
Is that okay to have 2?
That's absolutely fine.
All right. So first off, I'll start with Emperor's New Groove.
God, I should have picked that movie. That's a great movie.
It is a great movie. Is it underappreciated? I think
it's absolutely underappreciated.
All right.
Nobody's like, oh, I'm gonna buy all the Emperor New Groove toys. Like, it is.
It had, you follow this crazy string of like Disney high point 90s stuff, and then comes this weird movie that took like 6 years in production, and they had all sorts of crazy problems making it, and it's just this weird stepchild of it's just not your usual Disney film. It's got a lot of gags to it. It's got some amazing voices in it. It has some Warner Brothers humor to it. It's a very atypical Disney.
Yeah, no, it's pretty meta, honestly. As a kid, I didn't get a lot of jokes. When I got older, I was like, oh, I get it. I understand that now.
I still want to go to like Beware the Groove, and people do not. No one picks up on it.
Oh man, do you guys ever see that really sequel, Kronk's New Groove?
I have not. No.
Did you see that, David?
I did not see that, but yeah, you're right. Patrick Warburton, though, like Eartha Kitt. I mean, great voices in it. John Goodman, David Spade was great in it.
Back then, yeah, no, I agree. And then they actually also made a for TV like animated series of Emperor's New Groove, which is also really bad.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, they really try to milk it for all it was worth, but it never really captured like that the essence of the first movie, which is just so good in my opinion.
You're not going to see people dressed up like Emperor's New Groove characters, right? And there's no cute animal sidekicks in it. I don't think is that.
Well, isn't somebody turned into a llama?
Well, yeah, you could have a llama walk around. You had David Spade walk around llama.
I saw this guy dress up as Kronk, and he had like the little pack that he puts. It's Yzma, right? Like in the back,
Yeah.
And he was running like a fun run, like a 5K. He was just like dressed up like Kronk. It was the funniest thing in the world.
And I bet he's running, and like everyone who passes him are like, "What are you supposed to be?"
Yeah, and he was just
they don't know.
Oh, not at all. No,
it was great in it. Eartha Kitt is a really good villain. That's very incompetent at the same time. But yeah, that's one of mine.
Yeah. What's your other pick?
My other one is very, very esoteric, and that is Allegro non troppo.
What?
An Italian film from 77, I think.
76.
You have 76 in there. So there's this Italian animator, Bruno Bozzetto, kind of an independent guy, did a bunch of animated shorts, a lot of them nominated, I think, for Best Animated Short. stuff, and it was kind of an Italian answer to Disney's Fantasia. And I would argue, so Disney's Fantasia is technically, it's almost like a tech demo of the capabilities of animation at the time. But Allegro non troppo, the way that they set the stories that they tell with the classical music that they couple it up with it's like poignant and beautiful. And it's a bummer because you can't see it. They have bad versions of it on YouTube, and that's kind of it. And I think it's like, for example, before we did this recording, I showed a part of it to Sonia. What they do, Bolero, Ravel's Bolero, and it's the entire story of. It starts with an empty Coke bottle left by some astronauts that's in the ground, and it starts from that and becomes an entire story of evolution and the creation of the human race and everything like that, all told over the cross of the music. So cool.
It is really, really cool.
And the animation is beautiful. And in fact, what's his name? Ward Kimball, one of Disney's, main animator guys. He always used that sequence Bolero in his class as an example of amazing animation. So it's beautiful. It's political in parts. It's dark in parts. It's very funny and a little risque in parts. It's very Italian. But
you get to see boobies.
You get to see boobies.
Wow.
Shut up. Sign me up. Hey, Chris, going over your house watching Allegro non troppo or whatever.
Let's do it.
Yeah. It's got a little anti-war sentiment because it is the 70s.
You were talking and they were like, boring. Boobies. She said boobies.
That's right.
I'm not gonna lie.
She
like,
said
looking at my
boobies.
text. Like, what's going on? Nothing. Allegro non troppo. I can't even pronounce that. Quick question. So there's nowhere to find it, right? Like you said, it's like really versions online.
Yeah, the only way you can see it is there's a couple versions of it on YouTube.
Okay.
That you can see, and at least it'll give you sort of a taste of it.
Yeah. We were talking about it, and I was like, that's such a bummer that all these people worked on this, and it's so pretty to look at, and the only way you can watch it is like the same place where you can watch like a guy get hit in the nuts with a wiffle ball bat or something. Like, it deserves better.
Now you're speaking our language. Am I right, Chris?
Let's not run down guy getting hit in the nuts with a wiffle ball bat.
What was it? Man gets hit in groin with football.
Yeah,
that's right.
How old is it? I don't know if did you say how old it is?
1976.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's like older than Chris. Wow, it's crazy.
First of all, how dare you? Second of all, no, not quite. I was 5 years old when this movie came out. I am older than this movie, but thanks. Anyway, it's always fun having you on, Juan. Come again sometime. Sonia.
Yeah.
No, let's go to Juan.
I also have two picks.
Okay, well, how about we do mine and then we'll do yours too? Because I got one pick.
Okay.
And I'm gonna be really honest, guys. So Chris asked me if I want to be a part of this. It's like I'd gladly be a part of this. I would love to be a part of this. This segment. So I went like, what's a good animated feature that I really liked? And I picked a troll in Central Park. And I just sent that to Chris. And I was like, no big deal. I hadn't seen it in years, like since I was like a little kid. So I decided to look it up. And guess what, guys? It does not hold up.
No. No.
But let's talk about this movie that doesn't get enough love, that is pretty crappy. Here we go. So
you are so funny.
That's why I didn't want to go first. You said me first, like, oh.
I'm glad you went back and did the research, because one of my picks, I haven't gone back and watched it yet. And now I'm starting to wonder.
Well, anyways, this movie came out in 1994, which is a year after I was born. Troll in Central Park is about a troll. He lives like in the troll world that's somewhere.
Wait, does he live in Central Park?
Well, he does eventually. Let me get there, Sonia.
Okay. Sorry. I was excited.
He lives in some sort of troll world, where he apparently the rule is you can't have flowers, and he happens to have a green thumb. And they find out he has like a little corner of his troll habitat filled with flowers. He gets caught, and the queen, who hates flowers and has a black thumb that turns people to stone, sends him away. She wanted to stone him, but her husband, essentially her incompetent husband, suggested they just send him to a place where it's all concrete and nothing ever grows. So they send him to New York. But they shoot him too far, and he ends up in like some country club. Some wackiness ensues, and then he ends up in Central Park underneath the bridge, and he just kind of lives his life. And then two little kids show up, and then they kind of hang out for a bit, And then apparently the tabloids get a hold of the fact that the troll community isn't taking care of their trolls. And so then the troll lady comes to turn him to stone, and it's this whole bullshit thing. And yeah, man, it was not very good. What sucks is though, like I remember growing up.
What did you love about it when you were a kid?
Yeah, so like growing up, I really sympathized with this little troll guy because I was like, you know what? All he wants to do is make flowers. He's got a green thumb. It's not his fault he has a green thumb. I bet he'd love to have a black thumb and make things turn to stone. But he was born with a green thumb. You know what? Something I really liked about it. One thing I can say this. Hold up. The guy that does the voice. I don't want to say his last name wrong, but his name is Don DeLuise. He does the voice
Don
for
DeLuise.
That guy, the big fat dude.
Oh my God, Sonia, how old do you feel? Sonia, how old do you feel right now?
Really old.
All right,
he's got a really good voice. He does one of the voices for All Dogs Go to Heaven. Remember that?
Yeah,
I've heard.
Yeah,
about
so like,
it, yeah.
So you've never seen All Dogs Go to Heaven?
No, I actually, now that I think about it, I think I saw it.
In the title.
It's right there in the title. What a spoiler!
I saw it while working at a video store, and it looped in the background. So yes, I have seen All Dogs Go to Heaven. You're
the worst. Anyways, so has this guy as a voice actor, and I really enjoy his voice. I thought it was really suiting towards the character. I remember like I was watching it, and there's like little bits of it that I'm like. I remember as a kid really made me sad. Like there's this point where he's like under the bridge and he's like crying to himself because like no one ever loves him. He's like cleaning up his tears with his hat. And I was like, oh man, I remember like really being a kid and really being into that. And then, as an adult, I'm watching this. I was like, you know what? The story...
Juan, were you this little troll?
No, I was never a troll. People loved me. We talk about.
Everybody loves Juan. That's true.
Yeah, no, the thing is, I maybe it's because I was a very sheltered kid, though. I never really went out because my parents were scared that I was going to die. So I was really sickly, essentially, and I just never left. So I hang out with this troll guy all the time watching this guy's movie. Point is, as an adult watching it over, the story's pretty weak. The animation's like not even that great, I guess. It's okay looking for the most part. Yeah, and I think I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now. The box office is like $71,000. Yeah, so it's not a really
smokes.
Good... I assume this was the prequel to Trolls, the movie that came out like last year, right?
No, you know what? I would recommend watching this movie, but getting really drunk. Like that'd be really fun.
I will say this for Troll in Central Park. You can buy it on Amazon for $5.99, so it has that over non-tropo.
Or you can also watch the version of it on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it's interesting, Juan, because it's directed by Don Bluth, who tried to give Disney a run for its money in the late 70s and 80s. And
well, didn't he do All Dogs Go to Heaven?
He did. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
He did,
Troll
Lord
in
of the
Central
Rings
Park.
too.
Right. Troll in Central Park.
Dragon's Lair.
Was the last movie he did before he did a couple of sequels to All Dogs Go to Heaven. And then
All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 TOO.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing is actually now that I look at it, it's just his characters. So A Troll in Central Park looks like it was Don Bluth's last real movie. It ended his career.
You know what? And that sucks because I'm sure Don Bluth was a great guy. I've seen some of his work. But you know what? It's not a great movie. It doesn't hold up. And you know what? I think this was a great movie back in the day. Some movies aren't going to hold up. Like I feel like Coco will hold up for at least 50 years, at least.
Yeah.
And there's some movies that like, Casablanca, that's hold up pretty fine in my opinion. But, I don't think the SpongeBob SquarePants movie is going to hold up. I don't think
agreed 100%, especially the first one.
I don't think Lego Batman's going to hold up just because, but Lego movie absolutely is going to hold up. That's a classic.
Yes, it is.
But I'm just saying, like, there's just things that weren't meant to last, and this movie I feel like just wasn't made with the thought of longevity. Like it wasn't. And I mean, obviously, it didn't make that much money back. I mean, hold on.
I'm glad we decided to do a segment about underappreciated animated movies, and now we're talking about a movie that it sucks.
Well, technically, it is underappreciated.
It is underappreciated.
Perfectly appreciated.
Hey, Chris, is $71,000 a lot back in '94? Was that a lot of money back then for you guys? Or?
Oh my God, no! It was even back then.
Now,
anyways,
fun having you on, Juan. See you around sometime.
That was my segment. I'm sorry. I should have picked a movie that I knew for sure was good. But it is what it is.
This has been Juan Uriarte's final appearance on Dorking Out. And
Whatever.
we've regretted all of the previous ones.
Sonia and I are going to start a new podcast. It's going to be called Christmas is the Worst. He's got 3 Emmys and he's still sad. The podcast. That's what it's called.
That's the theme of this podcast.
Oh, nice.
Now you're just being redundant. Anyway, Sonia, what are your movies? Now,
well, so I'll be really fast because I don't want our show to go on too long. But I think the Peanuts movie is underappreciated.
I agree.
It came out in 2015. It kind of got lost in the shuffle around with like Inside Out and like that ridiculous Minions movie. People love the Minions. I don't get it. But I think Peanuts is like a perfect little movie for families. Like it is really sweet. It's really funny. It is short, which I think is perfectly great for animated movies. And I love that there's no real villains. It's a very simple story. It's not about like, and then a developer's coming to town and he's going to destroy the town and will Snoopy be able to save the town? All that stupid stuff that they put in little kid movies. It's just a perfect little family movie.
I mean, I love that one. I mean, to me, it's kind of I'm a Peanuts fan.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a love letter to Charles Schultz for sure. And I think they did, considering they brought this over to 3D, which I was very suspect about the whole idea. Somehow they managed to do it from the people that did Ice Age. They're able to pull this off.
Yeah.
So
and we've watched this
and it's
movie.
charming. It's a charming movie.
We've watched this movie countless times in this house. Like our son was very into the Peanuts movie for a while, and I never got tired of it. It was always really good.
One thing about that movie is it's gorgeous. Like I mean, like the way it looks, in my opinion, is just beautiful, right? Like it holds true to what the comic strip was, and it's also like these really bright colors, this really nice palette, and yeah, it's kind of like a lackadaisical story because that's what Charlie Brown's all about, I agree. I'm really glad that I think I watched this movie with like 3 people in theaters, and I was really bummed out because I thought this was going to blow up, but it didn't get enough love.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then my other.
And it lost Inside Out.
You've convinced me. After I watch Cuba and the Two Strings, I will
Shut up, you liar. Shut up. Stop talking.
Watch Peanuts.
Kubo and the Two Strings. And you've been saying that now for like a while now that you're going to watch it and you're never going to watch it. And it's your loss.
Maybe that was the problem.
Movie.
It's not.
You were saying that when it was Kubo and the 3 Strings.
That's right. It's not Cuba and the Two Strings. That's not the movie.
No.
Go away, Chris.
That's no dogs.
So the other one on my list is one I actually haven't seen in a really long time. So now I'm worried, kind of like Juan, like maybe it doesn't hold up.
Maybe it's trash.
But it is the Great Mouse Detective, which came out in 1986. It was kind of right before like Disney was kind of reborn with like Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and Aladdin and all that. They did this. I remember really liking The Great Mouse Detective, which is basically like a Sherlock Holmes story, but with mice. And I remember really loving it.
That one does, that one does hold up. I've seen it recently, and that is a solid flick. And I'm really bummed. I was hoping you were going to the bed like I did and pick a movie that sucks. But
I'm sorry I didn't the bed.
But that movie is solid. Okay, real quick then, I will redeem myself. What's the name of the movie about the little mouse guy that's coming to America? It's like Feigl or something?
American Tale.
All of those movies. I love that guy. Those movies need more love, okay? Boom, solid. 3 points for Juan. No big deal.
I used to hang out with Fievel, by the way.
How was that?
Wait,
the guy that did the voice?
No. When I was a tour guide at Universal Studios, I used to hang out with the character the guy that dressed up as Fievel.
You know what? You did
at Fievel's American Tales of America or whatever. Like
no, he did Fievel Goes West.
Yeah, that one's a good one too. You were the coolest guy for all of like 3 seconds, and then you told me the truth, and now I can't believe you. That's the worst.
I hung out with the mascot. I could have put on the head if I wanted.
You also a mascot?
That's so awesome.
I didn't though.
Oh, now I'm disappointed. Smith, what is your pick?
My pick.
How's your planet?
Well, it's that's right. It's funny because Sonia, your pick is the very beginning of the Disney revival in the late 80s. After The Great Mouse Detective, there's Oliver and Company, which was fine.
Right.
Then Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King, and they were taking off like a rocket. But by the early 2000s, they were getting to Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Lilo and Stitch, which is funny because now that we're mentioning these, Emperor's New Groove is good, didn't do great. Atlantis, The Lost Empire is good, didn't do great. Lilo and Stitch is, I thought, a lot of fun, didn't do great.
Oh, David loves.
Oh, yeah.
David
I do
loves
love Lilo and Stitch.
I've actually never seen it.
It's a great movie.
It's a lot of fun. No, it's great. And then to my movie, the movie that I think was the definite end of the great Disney run of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, Treasure Planet, a telling of Robert Louis Stevenson's famous Treasure Island book, but this time in space with space pirates.
Ooh,
Chris.
Ooh.
On paper, it sounds like everything that kids should love, but
it's all in this movie that they don't.
It bombed hard.
Hard towards kids. The only person that loves it is one old guy in Northern California.
You know what? I will take that because this movie is gorgeous. It's got this weird steampunk retro future thing, and people are walking around on the decks of ships, even though they're out in the middle of space. It makes no sense, but man, it's got some cool techie tech stuff. It's got great laser battles. It's got everything a kid could want. Me and my kids used to watch it all the time. Disney's, it's the 15-year anniversary of it now, and it's getting a little bit of love. It's getting a little bit of revival.
I can't believe that people aren't celebrating that.
Yeah. No, yeah. Anyway.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
No, I know. I can hear the sarcasm in your voice.
Chris, she got you so good.
You're not as subtle as you think, Sonia.
You're burned.
That's right. Which is funny.
Hyde Pierce's voice in it.
Oh, well, now I'm interested.
Who did a voice in it?
Levitt.
Jesus.
Is he the main character?
Yeah, he is.
Nice. I'm glad they got one solid guy in that movie. Poor horrible bad movie.
Oh my God! You guys, you know what? Go watch the movie. Just before.
I've seen the movie. You know what? The one thing I remember from the movie is there was a little like poopy little blobby thing that wasn't like a golden thing. Yeah, am I right? Is that a thing?
Something. Yeah, there's a little thing that puttered around.
I need to see it. I've never seen it.
Oh, actually, you know what? That's not that bad. There's that robot that's short circuiting, right? That was pretty funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. That movie's not the worst thing in the world. Yeah, good job, Chris.
All right, fine. You know, for somebody that picked Don Bluth's career killer, I frankly don't think I should take this much guff from you right now.
That's fine. You know what? I don't even care. Point is, all you do is talk about this one movie, and I feel you need to grow up and watch another movie. How about Kubo and the Two Strings? How about you watch a real film? How about you watch the Peanuts movie? How about you just stop bitching about this stuff and get over it, Chris?
Watch Kubo and the Two Strings.
Yeah.
Right. You know what? Maybe I will. Or maybe, just out of spite, I make a vow right now to never watch Kubo and the Two Strings.
You're just denying.
What do you think of that?
Hurting
what are you doing to yourself?
Stop hurting yourself.
Stop self-flatulating yourself.
Self-flatulating?
Yeah, that too.
Oh, you know what's a good movie that came out recently? You guys should watch. I feel like everybody should watch this. You guys should check out A Silent Voice.
Okay.
It's this really good anime film. It made me cry so hard. That's you want to cry? That's the movie you got to watch.
Which one? Say it again.
That's A Silent Voice.
Okay.
Check that one out, guys. Let me know what you think. Because if you guys were crying over Coco, this is over here. Coco, come on now. This movie will have you bawling. There's like a couple in front of me, like it was like an older white couple, and it was like the subtitled version that we went to go watch in the theaters. And they sat down, and for a second I was like, you know what? I think they showed up to the flick. But they stayed for the whole thing, and every time I looked over, the lady was just like crying, and the older guy was like holding her. He's just like, "Yeah, me too, sweetie. It's okay." I was like, for this anime movie, by the way. Anyways, that's all I have to say.
There's a lot of anime movies you could say are
underappreciated.
Like I can't, like Perfect Blue. I can't buy Perfect Blue on.
Oh, I DVD. Just recently watched Perfect Blue. That was amazing.
It was great. I mean, and I love that guy. I love Paprika and Tokyo Godfathers. But like, there's a lot of anime stuff that doesn't come over or isn't here for long. That you could definitely.
Well, that guy passed away, sadly. That's a real bummer. And that's why we don't see more of his stuff. But yeah, and I mean, I saw Perfect Blue recently, and yeah, that blew my mind. And it makes sense as to like how that guy also made Paprika and then Tokyo Godfather. Great stuff. Hey, Chris, you know any of this stuff? No, you don't, because the only anime thing you've ever seen is Princess Mononoke
Planet
back in the 90s. All right, Chris, I'm tired of your shit.
Well, Juan.
On to segment 5.
It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
I think you're lying. Sonia appreciates me. I don't feel like you appreciate me.
No, Juan. Don't you worry. I definitely appreciate you. I authentically appreciate you. Definitely right now. Any possible sarcasm you might be hearing in my voice now is just in your head because I thoroughly, deeply, definitely appreciate you coming on the show.
I think he's with me, guys. I can't tell, though.
Sonia, is there anything else that you would like to say before we end this segment?
No.
David, you have been on the show as well. Well, that's it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Chris, yeah. Ask me if there's something to say.
You're welcome. Wait a minute. You just spent the last minute having something to say and burning my show to the ground. You've said
Chris,
enough.
Just ask me if something to say. Chris, just ask me if there's something to say.
All right, Juan. Do you have anything to say before we end this segment?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to thank you for bringing me onto the show. I always have a great time hanging out with you guys. I really enjoy spending time with Sonia and her lovely husband, and then you're here. So you know what? Always a good time. And honestly, not being sarcastic, I love you guys. Love the show. Check out the INSTANT RAMEN podcast. We talk about anime, which is something you guys sometimes talk about, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways.
Nope, never. Me. Only when you're on here.
Juan, you should have David on sometime. He loves to talk about anime.
I should. You know what's surprising? You know what we do is every now and because me and my co-host, we like see each other physically because we live pretty close. Whenever one of us has to like have a guest in, it's usually because one of us can't make it. So we just kind of hit somebody up and ask them like how they got into anime. So yeah, I think you'd be great to do the show with.
All right.
Plug for David.
This has been Booking Instant Ramen. Brought to you by
Dorking Out. And that brings us to what we're dorking out about this week. I finally saw Spider-Man Homecoming. That's one of the things I'm dorking out about this week. I don't remember, Smith, what did you think of Spider-Man Homecoming? Because I didn't listen to your review because I didn't want spoilers.
I liked it quite a bit. I think it's my favorite Spider-Man movie, even though I am not a Spider-Man guy really in any way.
I really liked it too. I'm not like, I like Spider-Man, not enough apparently to see the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, but you know, I kind of like the first Sam Raimi one. I really like the second one, and then the third one I super hated. But this one I really liked. My husband, David Tracy, is a big Spider-Man fan, and I think maybe that's why we hadn't seen this yet, because I think he was hesitant. He was worried that he wasn't going to like it, and he really liked it too. I like the lead very much, Tom Holland. I like that they cast someone who actually looks like a teenager instead of like a 30-year-old playing a teenager.
Right.
Which I really, really liked. And, you know, David had a complaint, which he thought the Spider-Man suit was too much like Iron Man's suit. Like it does everything for him. And I think that's a pretty legit complaint, actually. But other than that, I thought it was a really good movie.
You know what?
So you're welcome, everybody, for the late review of Spider-Man Homecoming.
Well, yes, you're welcome, everybody, except for me, because I disagree. I thought the suit was great. And it was there a little bit, but I thought the thing that was great is he turned it all off because he wanted to do his thing.
Right.
And it basically just turned into a guidance counselor telling him what to do about the girl that he liked.
Right.
But
it turns into Surrey helping him like navigate social situations.
That's right. So I did like it an awful lot. It is spectacular to watch the development of, I've said this ad nauseum in the show, but I it's just a subject I can't get away from. I'm very interested in the way Disney and Marvel Studios is dealing with all their properties, while across the pond, we are watching Warner Brothers destroy some of the great intellectual property in American culture with the DC movies. It is
well, I think that's a little harsh. But...
I don't think so. I am going to disagree. I think that is one of the weird things, and I don't have this on our list to dork out about, but the repercussions of Justice League's poor opening last weekend, and the recriminations going around for all of the mediocre DC movies this week seems to have hit home with a lot of the DC fans that were holding out hope that Justice League was going to lift them up and show everybody that these movies are just as good and just as fun and just as whatever as Marvel movies, and it just didn't happen. But I don't know.
Like I said last week, I don't think the poor reception of Justice League is I don't think it's Justice League's fault. I think it is Batman v Superman's fault that movie
that's part of it. Yes. Yeah.
Didn't click for people, and so they're not coming back for Justice League.
No, I think you're definitely right.
On the flip side, they're getting a lot of people who probably went and saw Wonder Woman.
Well,
and
that's the thing, is I don't think they are, because it did alienate a lot of people, and Wonder Woman's audience, a lot of it, or some of it, didn't translate because Justice League actually opened, I don't know, well, it opened below Wonder Woman's number. So
it's just so weird. It's like to talk about a movie that opened with almost $100 million weekend, and they're like, meh.
It is. No, that's true. That's definitely true. It
could have been better. Sounds like it's kind of a bomb.
Well, that's the thing.
When a movie opened, and if it had like $13 million weekend, you were like, wow.
That's true. Yes.
A huge hit.
Here's the thing. Yes, I remember that, and that was true because they didn't spend $300 million on the movie. But when Justice League spends $300 million on the movie, and then with another $300 million in advertising, it's like, in order to break even, you got to make $600 million. And in order to do that, you need $1 billion, a movie that makes $1 billion at the box office. And so, in a sense, judging by, What's a Bomb, which is a movie that doesn't make its money back by a long shot.
Right.
I don't know if this is a bomb, but it's a pretty spectacular miss. All of that is a long-winded way of saying, I really like Spider-Man Homecoming too. It was great.
The other thing I wanted to mention quickly was I got an Amazon Echo.
Uh-huh.
A friend of mine actually received it as a gift, and he was like, I don't want this. So he gave it to me, which is basically how I ended up with it. So now it's been kind of my new toy all day Sunday. I've been spending my day trying to connect it to things and asking it to play different songs. And I think it's pretty neat.
Wow.
So I would say I'm kind of dorking out about it. This is how I spent my day today.
I might need to get an Echo then and connect some stuff up, because I actually have an Amazon Alexa, and it's fun. And I talked to it for a couple of days, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then it's like, I haven't connected it up to stuff. I need to connect it up to stuff and get it all rolling.
Let's see what happens next week if I'm still dorking out about it. But
that's right.
As someone who spends a lot of time cooking and hanging out in the kitchen and things like that, I've found it to be pretty helpful today.
Cool.
And I think it's pretty neat. And I just wanted to mention, I'm pretty excited. I want to check out She's Gotta Have It, the new Spike Lee series on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to watch that this week because David is traveling, and that means I can watch whatever I want all week.
Oh, really? Is David the boss of the television to let you know?
No, I think you and I know that I am, but I like to watch things that we both like, and he's not really into this one, but I'm pretty excited about it. So hopefully I can report back next week in this segment what we think.
I would definitely love to hear
what I think.
I think I'm with David on this. I used to love Spike Lee movies like crazy. I was excited for each one. And then, I don't know, somewhere after Clockers, maybe? After the 25th hour, he just got so hit and miss and so, I don't know what, that I just,
There's something about this one that's just, I'm interested. Like, I'm interested, so I'll report back. I'm not going to say any more.
Okay.
But what are you dorking out about this week?
What I am dorking out about is the best, well, what might be the best podcast app I've ever used. People on Android are probably very familiar with this. I just heard about this on an ad on some other podcast, so I thought I'd try it, and it is great. It is called Castbox. Now, the thing that makes Castbox great is when you search for something on Castbox, not only does it look within like the show descriptions, when you put out a podcast, you put out a generic show description that describes the entire show. Like, this is what the show's about. These are the keywords for the show. And then you put all this metadata within each episode of what you're talking about and who the guests are and all that stuff. And for some God knows why reason, the Apple Podcast app and Downcast and Overcast and what's the one I'm even using now? Most podcast players do not let you search for material within episodes of podcasts. So if somebody is a guest on some show and you type their name into a podcast app, it brings up a show that they might have created, and maybe it's a show they've hosted, but it misses all of this person guested on these other shows, and here are the episodes where they guested on. This one does all that. So I was able to go in and I put in Dana Gould, and here were like 20 podcasts I had never heard of where he had guest starred. And I went through and I listened to them all. I was like, hey, there's 20 more hours of Dana Gould that I love. And I was able to find all these obscure podcasts that he was on. And then I did Bill Burr, and he was all over the place. And then I did all these other people. And then I searched for like Jeff Bond and Alexandra August, and there was our podcast. Here were the 5, the 9 episodes they were on.
That's what I wanted to hear.
That's right. Well, the 9 episodes Jeff was on. It was the 5 episodes that Alexandra was on. But we don't need to worry about that. Alexandra, we love you. I'm just teasing you. Anyway, point is, I'm having a little trouble getting it to download stuff, but once I get it set, I think this is going to be my podcast app. Go-to app. I love this app. I love how it lets you just search. It lets you search keywords. It lets you search everything, and it is great. It's called Castbox. It's in the...
Well, I'm going to check it out.
Yeah, it's great. And here's the thing that I really like about it, or I thought was very interesting about, is apparently it also shows how many people are subscribed to a specific show. Now, I'm not going to get into details or whatever. I think the numbers are, well, I think it's pretty clear the numbers are all over the place. Because if these numbers are true, we are almost one of the, there are podcasts on the ranking boards that we have more listeners than, and I don't think that's actually the case. So
maybe it is. I bet we're super popular.
That's right. Maybe it is. We're super popular, and it's just the man keeping us off the leaderboard.
We're super cool, man.
That's right. That is definitely...
Because that's totally what a cool person would say.
That's right. That's what cool people all the time say. Anyway,
yeah, I'm so cool, man.
Yeah. So that's all I have to say. Castbox, it's great. Sonia Mansfield, is there anything else that you would like to say before we wrap this show up?
I'll just say goodbye.
Bye!
The Dorking Out Show is on Twitter at Dorking Out Show, where you can find Chris at Jet Jurgens and Sonia at The Sonia Show. You can read about Sonia's random adventures at thesoniashow.com and track the slow and creeping progress of Chris's novel and his other hijinks at jetjurgens.com. You can find out more about The Dorking Out Show at dorkingoutshow.com. While you're over there, you can support us by giving us a review on iTunes. We have a handy-dandy iTunes link to whisk you right back to 2007, where you can leave your review and 5-star rating in iTunes. We'd do it for your podcast. Want to dork out even more? Well, you can sign up for our newsletter, where you'll get all the headlines we use as fuel for the show. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening.